Today we're diving into the oldest religious writings in human history. We're going to decode the pyramid texts, literally the world's very first guidebook to a turning.
There's this powerful ancient prophecy. It was written when Egypt's old ways were starting to fade, and it basically predicted that its incredible religion would all just dissolve into myths. A really sad prediction for a world that was about to disappear. But what if that prophecy wasn't entirely right?
See, despite that grim forecast being forgotten, the thread of these ancient beliefs was never really cut. It kept echoing down through the millennia, and in some ways that are pretty surprising.
And here's a perfect example. Thousands of years ago, you had priests reciting these texts to guide a pharaoh's soul. Now, fast forward to today, and a strikingly similar practice called the talqin is still performed in Egypt. And get this, both Christians and Muslims do it. It's the same idea, coaching the deceased for their journey. That's a truly unbroken ritual.
So, to really understand where these echoes come from, we have to go back, way, way back, to the source, the very first sacred texts ever written down. So, here they are, the pyramid texts. Now, this isn't a book in the way we think of one. It's a whole collection of spells, rituals, and hymns that were carved right onto the inner walls of the pyramids. This is it. This is humanity's first attempt to write down its deepest beliefs about life, death, and the entire cosmos.
And just how old are we talking? Well, the first of these inscriptions are over 4,300 years old. They were carved inside the pyramid of King Unas all the way back around 2300 BC. That's centuries before the much more famous Book of the Dead even existed. And to really put that in perspective, when these texts were being carved, the Great Pyramids of Giza were already ancient wonders. The pyramid texts are basically the granddaddy of all Egyptian afterlife books. Everything that came later, including the Book of the Dead, flowed from this source.
Now, it's super important to understand that this wasn't just abstract philosophy.
No, these texts were a practical, magical toolkit, a divine how-to guide for the dead king, designed specifically to help him navigate the dangers of the underworld and secure his spot among the gods. And what a journey it was. The ancient Egyptian afterlife was no peaceful paradise. Oh no, it was a treacherous, dangerous landscape filled with divine and demonic threats the king absolutely had to overcome. Okay, so to understand the journey, you have to understand their idea of the soul. They believed it had three main parts. You have the Ka, which is like the life force that stays with the body. Then there's the Ba, the soul's personality, which could roam around. But the ultimate goal was to become an Ak, a perfected, shining, divine spirit. And that was the whole point of these spells, to unite the Ka and the Ba to create this immortal Ak.
The first big obstacle? The gods themselves. The earth god Geb might literally try to hold the king's body captive. Other gods might just block his path out of pure jealousy. And here's the wild part. The spells aren't just about pleading for help. The king actually threatens the other gods to force them to help him. Talk about confidence.
Next up, of course, were the monsters. The underworld was absolutely crawling with venomous snakes, giant crocodiles, and all sorts of demons just waiting to devour the king's soul. And the spells against them are just so vivid. You can almost hear the priests chanting this in the dark chamber of the pyramid, a powerful command to repel a threat they believed was very, very real. But honestly, maybe the most terrifying dangers were existential. The ultimate fear wasn't just being destroyed, it was being eternally humiliated. We're talking spells specifically to prevent being forced to eat filth, drink urine, or walk upside down for all of time. A complete inversion of everything natural and dignified. Just a total nightmare. But, and this is a huge but, if the king could overcome all of these dangers, the reward was so much more than just survival. It was a complete divine transformation. It was ascension. What's really cool is that the texts actually show a tension between two different ideas about the afterlife. The older, solar belief was about ascending to the sky to join the sun god Ra on his eternal journey. But a newer belief was rising where the king would become one with Osiris, the god of the underworld. The pyramid texts contained spells for both. They were hedging their bets on eternity. And this leads us to what is, without a doubt, the most shocking and intense section of the texts, what's known as the cannibal hymn. And no, that's not a metaphor. It describes a literal ritual act.
The logic here, as terrifying as it sounds, is this. To become divine, You have to consume divinity. The hymn describes the king hunting, slaughtering, cooking, and literally eating the other gods to absorb their power, their magic, their immortality. It is the ultimate power move, securing your place in the cosmos by consuming the cosmos itself.
The texts also give us this fascinating list of all the ways the king could physically get up to the sky. He could ride on a raft, climb a ladder to the stars, get carried by the god Thoth, just transform into a bird and fly, or, and I love this one, poetically rise up on the smoke of burning incense. And this all brings us right back to where we started. These incredibly ancient, powerful, and, let's face it, sometimes very strange ideas, they didn't just vanish, they became that unbroken thread of belief. Think about those core concepts: a dangerous journey after you die, divine gatekeepers who demand passwords, a soul that has to prove its worth. These ideas were too powerful to just disappear. They got absorbed and adapted by later religions, and they echo very strongly in mystical traditions like Gnostic Christianity. I mean, the parallel is uncanny. In the pyramid texts, the king needs the right passwords to get past the guardians of the underworld. Millennia later, in Gnostic texts, the soul gets interrogated by divine beings called archons and has to give the right answers to pass. It is the same fundamental concept, just echoing across thousands of years. Which leaves us with this incredible thought. The pyramid texts were written for one person, a divine king, to become immortal. And yet, the fears they deal with and the hopes they represent are so fundamentally human that they've just kept echoing through our rituals, our stories, and our beliefs all the way to today.